Kids. So tonight I'm going to read Cinderella to my daughter. She's sleeping right now, but I promised that I would read it even if she fell asleep. So I'm going to read it to her. But in order for you to know how I read the book, there are 10 voices that I do. So here are the voices for the book. Here's Cinderella. That means I can go. Here's Drizella. Imagine Cinderella dancing with a prince. Here's Anastasia. She's only fit to dance with a broom. The wicked stepmother. You may go if you get all your work done and if you can find something to wear. Gus. Poor Cinderella. Jacques. Cinderella do this and Cinderella do that. Another friend, another mouse.
Well, we fixed a dress for Cinderella. We could do it.
The Duke. Are there any of the ladies in the house? The Prince. Find the girl whose fit fits the slipper and I will marry her. The Fairy Godmother. Where is my wand? Bippity boppity boo. And finally, oh, that's it. So let's get started. Let's go read Cinderella. Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful girl named Cinderella. She was so kind that even the mice and the birds were her friends. Each morning, they'd wake her with their beautiful song. Cinderella lived with her cruel stepmother and her two stepsisters, Anastasia and Drizella. They treated her like a servant. Cinderella had to do all the cooking and cleaning and scrubbing and washing. Her stepsisters never did any work. One day, a royal messenger came to the house. He brought a letter from the king. The stepmother read the letter. The king was giving a ball for the prince that night, and every girl in the kingdom was invited. That means I can go? Cinderella cried. Her stepsisters laughed. Imagine Cinderella dancing with a prince. She's only fit to dance with a broom. But the letter says every girl's invited, Cinderella insisted. So it does. You may go if you get all your work done and if you can find something to wear. Oh, thank you. Cinderella quickly ran to her room. Cinderella pulled out a dress from her trunk. This was my mother's dress, she told her little friends. Isn't it lovely? It just needs some decoration. A thin mouse named Jacques said that Cinderella would be the prettiest girl in the ball. A fat mouse named Gus agreed. Cinderella took out her sewing basket. I'll just need a sash and some beads, she said. Just then the stepmother shouted, Cinderella! Cinderella hurried down the stairs. Cinderella, wash the floors! But I washed them yesterday. Well, wash them again! and dust the drapes and clean the windows and then finish the sewing. The mice felt sorry for Cinderella. Cinderella do this and Cinderella do that, Jacques said. Cinderella will never have time to fix that dress and her stepmother won't have to let her go to the ball. Poor Cinderella, Gus agreed. Then one of the other mice had an idea.
Why don't we fix a dress for Cinderella? We can do it.
All the animals agreed to help. Gus and Jacques sneaked in the stepsister's room. Drizella and Anastasia were getting ready for the ball. This sash is old, Anastasia said. These beads are horrible, Drizella said. They threw their things away. Gus and Jacques took the sash and the beads. Purdy, Gus exclaimed. Shh, Jacques hissed. He was afraid they'd wake Lucifer the cat, but the mice made it safely back to the attic. Soon every beak and every paw was busy, and while the animals measured and cut and sewed, and while they worked, Cinderella helped her stepsisters with their gowns. Soon it was time to leave for the ball. Why, Cinderella, you're not ready. What a shame. Cinderella slowly climbed the stairs to her room. Oh, well, what's a royal ball? She said. It would probably just be dull and boring and... Cinderella sighed. Completely wonderful. But her dress wasn't finished, so she couldn't go. Cinderella opened the door to her room. "Surprise!" shouted the mice and the birds. Cinderella thought she was dreaming. Her dress was beautiful. "Oh, thank you," Cinderella told her little friends. She put on the gown and hurried down the stairs. "Isn't my dress lovely? May I go to the ball now?" Cinderella asked. Anastasia and Drizella gasped. "Mother, she can't go." "Well, we did have a bargain," said the stepmother. At that moment, the stepsisters recognized the things they'd thrown away. "My sash! My beads!" The sisters tore at Cinderella's gown. They took back the sash and the beads. Cinderella was left in rags. Then Drizella and Anastasia went to the ball with their mother. Cinderella ran into the garden. She tried to remember her sweet dreams, but she didn't think they'd ever come true. Her animal friends had never seen her so sad. "There's just nothing left to believe in. Nothing," Cinderella sobbed. She didn't notice the lights that danced and twinkled all around her, but Jacques and Gus did. They couldn't hardly believe their eyes. The lights turned into a kind-looking woman. The woman patted Cinderella's head and said, "You must believe in something, or I wouldn't be here. And here I am, so dry your tears. Now, where did I put my wand?" The woman was Cinderella's fairy godmother, and everything she needed to help Cinderella was right in the garden. The fairy godmother waved her wand, and bippity-boppity-boo. 4 mice became 4 white horses. And bippity-boppity-boo. A pumpkin turned into a beautiful coach, and a horse became a coachman, and a dog became a footsman. The fairy godmother was very pleased. "Hop in, my dear, we can't waste time," she urged. Don't you think my dress," Cinderella began. "Oh, good heavens, child, you can't go like that." Bippity-boppity-boo. Suddenly, Cinderella was wearing the gown of her dreams, and on her feet she wore glass slippers. Fairy godmother said, "Like all dreams, my magic must end. At midnight, the spell will be broken." Cinderella promised to be home before midnight, and off she rode to the ball. The ball had already begun. The king was not very happy. He wanted his son to marry. The prince had danced with all the girls at the ball and hadn't fallen in love with any of them. "Love at first sight only happens in fairy tales," the duke told the king. But at that moment, Cinderella made her entrance, and the prince stared in wonder. Here was the girl of his dreams. The prince asked Cinderella to dance. Cinderella and the prince danced around the ballroom. Everyone wondered about the beautiful girl. "Do we know her?" Drizella asked. "The prince seems to," Anastasia said with jealousy. "There's just something familiar about her," said the wicked stepmother. When the dance ended, Cinderella and the prince walked in the garden. They were falling in love. Suddenly, the clock struck midnight. I must go," Cinderella cried. "No, but wait," cried the prince. But Cinderella couldn't wait, and as she fled, she lost 1 glass slipper. The prince showed the slipper to the duke. "Find the girl whose foot fits the slipper, and I will marry her," said the prince. Meanwhile, Cinderella's dress had become rags again. The coach was now a pumpkin. The horse had turned back into a mouse again, and the coachman and the footsman had turned back into a horse and a dog. All Cinderella had left was 1 glass slipper. The duke searched the entire kingdom for the girl whose foot fit that slipper. Soon everyone knew the prince would marry that girl. When Cinderella heard this, she got a dreamy look in her eyes. The stepmother saw the dreamy look. She didn't want Cinderella to marry the prince, so she put the key in her pocket, locked Cinderella in her room, and the stepmother put the key in her pocket and left. Jacques and Gus saw everything. "We gotta get that key," Jacques cried, and Gus agreed. The 2 brave mice managed to get the key from the stepmother's pocket. They struggled to get that big, heavy key up those tall stairs. Jacques and Gus had to hurry, too, because the Duke had just arrived, and the footsman is carrying the glass slipper. Anastasia tried to slip her on foot first. Her foot was much too big. Gisella tried next. She couldn't even get her toes in the slipper. "Are there any of the ladies in the house?" asked the Duke. "There's no one else," said the stepmother. Cinderella came down the stairs. Jacques and Gus had freed her. "May I try on the slipper, please?" But the cruel stepmother tripped the footman. The footman fell and the slipper broke. Luckily, Cinderella had the other glass slipper, and of course it fit perfectly. Cinderella and the prince were soon married. It was Cinderella's dream come true. Jacques and Gus weren't surprised because they always knew, if you keep on believing, that's just what dreams do. Thanks for listening. Good night.